today's lesson we're going to continue looking at converting metric units, and today we're going to focus on weight. So let's have a look at our learning objectives for today. We're going to start by recalling and using the different metric units for weight, so ones you might have come across before. We're going to then demonstrate how to convert between different metric units of weight, and then hopefully some of you might even be able to explain how you know which is the heaviest from different weights. So let's start with our first learning objective, which is to recall the different weights. So you might know lots of different weights. I'm going to ask you to pause the video and just write down on a piece of paper any different ways in which I can measure weight. So how heavy you are, how heavy the door is, how heavy a remote control is. What would you measure them in? You wouldn't just say they were 10, you would say they were 10 something. So pause the video and write down any units that you might use. Right, let's have a look what you've got there. So you might have come up with something like pounds and ounces. I know when I'm making a cake, I love baking, and I measure my flour, my sugar and my butter in ounces. Now they are a measurement of weight, but they are not a metric unit, and that's what we're looking at the moment, this word here, metric. They're a more old-fashioned unit of measurement called imperial, which you might have heard of. So our metric units of weight. The smallest one you guys need to know about for today's lesson is mg. Do we know what mg might stand for? It stands for milligrams. The biggest one we're going to look at today is kg. And I imagine you know what that one is. That one is kilograms. There is a bigger one than kilograms called tons. But we're not going to look at that today. We're going to focus on milligrams, kilograms, and do you know what comes in between those? So it's bigger than a milligram, but smaller than a kilogram. Do you know what that might be? It's a gram. So let's have a think about what these might be. A milligram is something that is very, very light. So either really, really tiny, like an insect, or something just super duper light. So my example I've got here is a feather. Okay. I've lost my feather. Where's it gone? Let's put it over here. So my example is a feather. Okay. And that is something that is super duper light, really, really light. And if I was measuring how heavy it would have to be in milligrams. Kilograms isn't necessarily as heavy as you might be. Something like a house or something like that. Yes, that could be kilograms or tons. But really, anything that is your size would be measured in kilograms. So we would measure a person in kilograms. Quite often we measure them in stones and pounds, which again is our old-fashioned imperial measurement. But the metric unit is we should measure in kilograms. So my example that I've got here is actually a caravan. But caravans could be measured in a different unit altogether, in the tons that we've talked about, but it's something that's nice and heavy. So grams is the tricky one. It's got to be quite a small thing, because if you guys are in kilograms, it's got to be smaller than you, but it's got to be something that maybe you can feel the weight of. If something is measured in milligrams, you probably can't feel that weight on your hand. So you can't feel the weight of a feather or of a ladybird. They're too light, so they would be measured in milligrams. But grams, you can easily hold it on your hand, but you can feel it has a weight. So my example here is I've got a little, I don't know if that's a mouse or a rat. I think it's supposed to be a mouse. So if a mouse was on my hand, he wouldn't be heavy, but I would be able to feel him. So that would be in grams. So for your first task today, in a second I'm going to ask you to pause the video, go onto the Google Classroom and click on Task 1, the best measure of weight. For each of the 9 questions, I want you to read the item and decide whether we would measure that in milligrams, grams or kilograms. So remember, milligrams you would have it on your hand, but you wouldn't be able to feel how heavy it was. Grams, it wouldn't be very heavy on your hand, but you could feel it had a weight. And kilograms is something that is quite heavy. You could probably hold it, or it would be too heavy for you to hold. Pause the video now. Okay, I hope you got on really well with that. I know we had quite a mixture of answers when we were looking at the lengths last lesson. So we're going to move on now to how we convert between milligrams, kilograms and grams in the middle. So this one's a little bit easier to get your head round. You may or may not know that 1 kilogram, I'm going to write this in the corner up here, is 1,000 grams. So to get from kilograms to grams, I times by 1,000. If I times by 1,000 going that way, what do you think I do if I'm going the other way, so from grams to kilograms? Yeah, I divide by 1,000. I do the opposite. So that is divide by 1,000. And then if you remember the work we were doing on length last lesson, we had millimetres, centimetres and metres. And we haven't got that centi in the middle here. We haven't got a centigrams. We've just got milligrams and grams. And what's nice about measure of weight is that 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. So the conversion is the same. So to get from grams to milligrams, I times by 1,000. And then what do you think I do to get from milligrams to grams? Exactly, I divide by 1,000. Lovely. Okie dokie. So let's have a look at some examples of this. I've got 3 nice, easy red examples, and then 3 bit trickier orange examples or amber examples. So my first one says 6 grams is how many milligrams? So hopefully we remember that 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams, and that's this conversion here. So going from grams to milligrams. So if 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams, I've just times by 1,000. 6 grams will be 6 times 1,000, so 6,000 milligrams. How easy is that? Just times by 1,000. 40 grams going to milligrams, I'm following that same method. I am timesing by 1,000. Oh, I've put too many zeros on there. Did anybody spot that? Times by 1,000. So 40,000 milligrams. And you can see why we don't write it as milligrams, because we get a lot of zeros. My final nice red easy example on here is going from kilograms to grams. So that's just looking at this part of the chart here. And remember I told you that 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. So I'm timesing by 1,000. So 7 kilograms times by 1,000 is 7,000 grams. Doesn't that look really nice and simple? Something we can follow really easily. Okay, let's have a look at the orange examples. So my orange examples are harder. Can you see why they're harder? Yeah, they're going the other way. These are my division. They're going from the smaller to the larger measurement. So my first one on the orange examples is milligrams to grams. So that's this conversion here. And that is divide by 1,000 to get from milligrams to grams. So 8,000 divided by 1,000. So how many thousands fit in 8,000? The answer is 8. 8 grams. The second one, again, is going from milligrams to grams. So again, I want to do 500 divided by 1,000. Now, this one isn't quite nice and easy, so I'm going to just, from a few lessons back, I'm going to use my place headings. So hundreds, tens, units, tenths, hundredths. Squeeze that on there. And then if I just put my columns in. So at the moment I have 500 milligrams. I've just put my decimal point in so I know where it is. And if I divide by 1,000, I move all the digits 3 places to the right. So 1, 2, 3. So my 5 finishes in that tenths column. So it's 0.5 or 0.500. But I can't just write 0.5. What do I have to do? Yes, I have to put a placeholder, so it has to be 0.5. So 500 milligrams is 0.5 grams. And some of you might know that 0.5 is half. So 500 milligrams is half a gram. Last example before you do some questions for me then. So my last example on here is grams into kilograms. So that's this section of the conversion chart here. And again, it tells me to divide by 1,000. So I'm going to do my place headings again, place value chart headings. So this one's 70, so tens, units, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. That's about all I can squeeze on, I think. And I have the number 70. Just put my decimal point in the right place. And to get from grams to kilograms, I divide by 1,000. So I move everything 3 places to the right. 1, 2, 3. So my 7 ends up here, and there's my decimal point. So I've got point blank 7. I can't have blanks in my numbers, it's mathematically incorrect. So I do place value holders, so a 0 there and a 0 there, to tell me that the answer is 0.07 kilograms. So, what do I want you to do? This is the end of the video. It's a bit shorter today. I'd like you to go back onto Google Classroom and have a go at task number 2, converting metric weights. This week I've gone for a multiple choice quiz. I really want you to have a good go at trying to work them out. Don't just guess. But it does mean if you're struggling, you can definitely fill in the answers. I look forward to meeting you all in our lesson next week. Thank you and bye-bye.